Okay, so let's step back in time today, way back. We're talking ancient Rome, this world of, you know, incredible grandeur, but also just brutal realities.
Yeah, it's a setting that immediately grabs you. Power, betrayal, epic battles. It's all there.
Exactly. And we're diving into a story that's packed with all of that, but also asks some really deep questions.
Mhm.
Things about honor, legacy, what it all means.
We are today doing a deep dive into a film that, frankly, revitalized the historical epic. We're talking about Ridley Scott's Gladiator from 2000.
An absolute classic.
It really is. And
Oh,
it's more than just spectacle, right? It works as this lens, a way to explore these really timeless human things, loss, revenge, but also fighting for something bigger than yourself.
that's it. So our mission today is to really unpack Gladiator. We'll dig into the story, which is pretty complex when you look closely. The characters, obviously unforgettable, and those themes that just hit so hard with audiences.
And critics, too, let's not forget, 5 Academy Awards.
Right. Including Best Picture and, of course, Best Actor for Russell Crowe. He basically became Maximus.
He really embodied that role. So by the end of this, our goal is for you listening to not just remember the plot points, but to really get the layers, the nuances, the sheer dramatic power behind it all.
Okay, let's do it. Where do we start? The beginning seems like a good place. The general's world.
Let's set the stage. Ancient Rome, 180 AD.
Right, so the film throws you straight in. 180 AD, Rome's supposedly at its peak, and bam, this opening sequence. It's intense. General Maximus Decimus Meridius leading the Roman army, winning this huge battle against Germanic tribes in the snow and mud.
It's incredibly immersive. Visceral is the word. But it's doing more than just showing Roman military might. It's immediately establishing Maximus. Before he even says much, you get a sense of the man.
How so? What are those early clues?
Well, think about it. The way he touches the wheat, that little moment connecting him to home, to something peaceful. His quiet respect, almost reverence, for Marcus Aurelius. His focus on his men, even in the chaos. The commands are simple, confident, there's no bluster. It all paints this picture of deep integrity. He's not just a killing machine.
That's a great point. It's deliberate character building right off the bat. They want you to see him as this moral core, this anchor before everything goes wrong. He's a leader people follow out of respect, not fear.
Precisely. And that distinction is crucial. It sets him apart from, well, from what's coming. You understand why he's the commander of the armies of the north, why his men are loyal.
And it's that very integrity that the emperor, Marcus Aurelius, sees in him. So we shift from that brutal battlefield to the emperor's tent, much quieter, more intimate. And Marcus Aurelius, he's old, he's weary, and he's thinking about Rome's future.
Yeah, and this is where the whole story just pivots dramatically. Marcus Aurelius has this vision. He doesn't want the empire to continue as it is. He wants to return power to the Senate. He wants to restore the Republic.
Which sounds noble, but was that even realistic by 180 AD? Wasn't the Republic long gone?
Pretty much. I mean, for listeners maybe not steeped in Roman history, the Republic, that idea of shared power, elected officials, it was more of a nostalgic ideal by this point. Rome was an empire ruled by emperors. So Marcus Aurelius's plan wasn't just political maneuvering. It was like fundamentally trying to turn back the clock, aiming for this almost mythical golden age. It was radical.
Okay, so a huge, potentially destabilizing decision. And who does he choose to lead this transition?
Not his own son, Commodus. He chooses Maximus. He believes Maximus has the honor, the strength, the moral clarity needed to guide Rome back to being a republic. He essentially names Maximus his successor, his protector.
Yeah, that speaks volumes about his faith in Maximus, but also his lack of faith in Commodus.
Absolutely. It underlines his deep disillusionment with his son and his almost desperate hope for Rome's soul. It immediately sets up this core conflict. Dictatorship, represented by Commodus, versus the democratic ideal, embodied in Marcus's wish, and eventually, Maximus.
And it raises that huge what if, doesn't it? What if Marcus had lived? What if he'd announced it publicly?
Exactly. What if Maximus had actually taken charge and started that process? Could Rome have become a republic again? Within the film's world, it's this fascinating alternate path.
That gets slammed shut almost immediately.
Sure.
Because Commodus arrives.
Right on cue. Ambitious, power-hungry, and deeply, deeply corrupt Commodus. He finds out about his father's plan, this ultimate rejection.
And his reaction.
It's chilling. Before Marcus can make anything public, before anyone else knows, Commodus smothers his own father, kills him.
Just like that.
Swift, silent, brutal patricide. It instantly establishes him as the villain. No ambiguity. The film shows his ruthlessness, his desperation, his complete lack of morality.
That scene, the emperor struggling for breath,
Yeah.
it's hard to watch. It defines Commodus.
It does, and it kicks off the entire tragedy for Maximus. That single act of treachery hidden from the world throws Maximus from the height of power into hell, basically.
Oh, Marcus Aurelius is dead. Commodus takes the throne, and Maximus is faced with this impossible situation.
Right, and this is where Maximus's integrity costs him everything. Commodus, now emperor, needs to consolidate power. He needs the army, he needs Maximus, so he confronts him, offers him a chance to swear loyalty. Take my hand, basically. Join me.
But Maximus can't. He knows what Commodus did, or at least strongly suspects, and he certainly knows what Commodus represents. He refuses, flat out.
A man of principle. But principles have consequences under a tyrant. The retaliation is immediate and horrific. Commodus doesn't just want Maximus dead, he wants him utterly destroyed. He orders Maximus's execution.
And worse.
And much, much worse. He orders the murder of Maximus's wife and young son back home on their farm in Spain. It's calculated cruelty. It's not just politics, it's personal annihilation, wiping out his entire world.
That shift from political intrigue to this deeply personal, gut-wrenching tragedy is what gives the film its emotional power, I think.
Absolutely. The film doesn't shy away from it either. That ride home, the desperation, arriving too late, it's devastating. It makes his quest for vengeance completely understandable, completely earned. It's not just anger, it's profound, soul-crushing grief.
And Commodus's depravity is just laid bare, targeting the family. It's monstrous.
It truly is. So Maximus, he actually manages to escape his own executioners, fights his way out, but he's badly wounded. He rides relentlessly, desperately trying to get home.
That ride feels endless, hopeless.
And the arrival, it's one of the most heartbreaking scenes in cinema, I think. He gets there too late. His wife, his son, crucified, burned. The imagery is stark, brutal. The film uses muted light, slow motion. You feel his shock, the world just ending for him right there.
He's lost everything. His rank, his honor in the eyes of the new emperor, his family, his home, his purpose.
Everything. He collapses, physically and emotionally broken. And that's when the slave traders find him. Just adrift. A former general, now less than nothing. It's the absolute bottom.
But it's also the beginning of a different path, isn't it? A darker one.
It is. This descent leads him improbably to Proximo, played brilliantly by Oliver Reed in his last role.
A former gladiator himself.
Exactly. Now a trainer running a school for gladiators out in the provinces. Maximus is sold to him. And despite the grief, the numbness, the despair, Maximus starts to fight.
Using those incredible skills, honed, leading legions.
But in this totally new, brutal context, not for Rome, not for glory, maybe just to die fighting, or maybe just pure survival instinct kicks in. He fights in these dusty provincial arenas, and he's good, too good. He starts getting noticed. They call him the Spaniard.
The irony. The great Roman general, now just the Spaniard.
It's a stark contrast, but his military background, the discipline, the strategy, it gives him an edge. He's not just flailing, he's thinking, calculating, even in the midst of this chaos.
So this anonymous gladiator starts building a reputation.
Yeah, this grim, unlikely rise begins, and it's a path that's going to lead him incredibly back to Rome, back to the Colosseum, back to Commodus.
And how does he end up back in Rome?
Well, Commodus. Always Commodus. He's facing some political heat back in the capital. The Senate's grumbling. Maybe the people are restless. So what does he do?
Distraction.
Bingo. He announces 150 days of games, reopens the Colosseum, give the people a show, keep them entertained, keep them from thinking too much about, actual governance. It's the classic bread and circuses playbook.
A cynical move, but probably effective.
Very. And as part of this grand spectacle, he brings in gladiator troops from the provinces, including Proximo's troop with his star attraction, the Spaniard. Commodus literally invites his own doom into the heart of his power without even knowing it.
The Colosseum itself is such a powerful symbol in the film.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just a backdrop. It represents Roman power, the spectacle, the mob mentality, the very tool Commodus uses to manipulate the people, the scale of those scenes, the sound design, Zimmer's score. It's all designed to make you feel the overwhelming nature of it, just like the Roman citizens would have. It's masterful filmmaking, making you feel the manipulation.
So Maximus arrives in Rome, still anonymous, fighting under Proximo.
Right. And in the grand arena of the Colosseum, he just dominates. He's not just strong, he's smart. He uses tactics, teamwork. His military experience shines through even in these staged combats. He defeats opponents who should, on paper, crush him.
in the crowd.
The crowd goes wild for him. They sense something different about this gladiator. There's a dignity, a skill, a kind of defiance, even in the way he fights and refuses to just be a brute. He commands the arena.
It's fascinating, isn't it? This man who's lost everything, stripped bare, becomes the hero of the very mob Commodus is trying to placate.
It's perfect irony. Commodus's own tool of control starts to forge the weapon of his destruction. Maximus isn't just fighting for survival now, he's winning the hearts of Rome, the very people Commodus needs.
Then comes the moment, the reveal.
Oh, yeah. After a particularly stunning victory, one where he really showcases his brilliance and spares a fellow gladiator, Commodus comes down to the arena floor to meet this sensational new fighter.
Expecting gratitude, maybe.
Probably expecting submission. Maximus is standing there, helmet on, victorious. Commodus is praising him, the crowd is roaring. And then Maximus slowly, deliberately removes his helmet.
The tension is just palpable.
You could hear a pin drop, metaphorically speaking. He looks Commodus right in the eye, and he delivers that line.
Go on, say it. It's iconic.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix legions, loyal servant to the true Emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next.
Chills. Every single time.
It's pure defiance, raw emotion, a public declaration of war, essentially. Right in the emperor's face, in front of thousands. The audacity is breathtaking.
You feel the shock ripple through the stadium, and then the roar of the crowd. They understand the gravity.
They absolutely do. But it raises that key question. Why doesn't Commodus just yell, "Kill him," right then and there?
Yeah, that's always puzzled me slightly. He's the emperor.
It comes down to Commodus's fatal flaw. His desperate need for validation, for the crowd's love, which he fundamentally doesn't have, not really. He's stunned, yes, but he also instantly understands the political reality. Maximus, in that moment, has become the people's champion.
So killing him would make him a martyr, turn the crowd against Commodus.
Exactly. Maximus has, ironically, gained a shield. The adoration of the mob protects him, temporarily at least. Commodus is trapped by his own need for popularity. It shows the power the people, the mob, could wield, even against an emperor.
Wow. So Maximus uses his fame as a weapon.
He does. He's no longer just seeking personal vengeance. He's now a political force, a symbol, whether he intended it or not. And that opens up a whole new front.
Okay, so Maximus is revealed. He's untouchable for the moment, but he's still essentially a prisoner, a gladiator. What's the next move?
He can't act alone. He needs allies. And they emerge from the shadows. Lucilla, Commodus' sister.
Who also has a history with Maximus, right?
Yeah.
There was something between them before.
Yes, the film hints at a past romance, adding another layer of complexity. She's intelligent, politically savvy, and she despises what her brother is doing to Rome and, frankly, fears him. And she allies with Senator Gracchus.
A respected senator who represents the old Republican ideals.
Precisely. He's one of the few still openly critical of Commodus, clinging to that vision Marcus Aurelius had. So the three of them, the gladiator hero, the emperor's sister, the idealistic senator, they hatch a plan.
To do what? Overthrow Commodus.
Exactly. Restore the Republic. The plan is to use Maximus's fame, get him out of Rome, reunite him with his loyal legions, the Felix legions who are camped nearby, and then march on the city. Use the army's loyalty to Maximus to force Commodus out.
It brings back that core political theme, dictatorship versus the Republic. It's not just about Maximus's revenge anymore.
Not at all. Lucilla and Gracchus represent that hope for a better Rome, but the risks for them are enormous. Conspiring against the emperor with a gladiator, it's treason. It shows how desperate they are, how dangerous Commodus has become.
And Commodus. He can't be unaware that things are brewing, can he?
No, tyrants are often paranoid, and Commodus is definitely descending further into paranoia. He suspects plots everywhere, he trusts almost no one, and eventually, through his network of spies, or Lucilla's forced confession perhaps, he uncovers the conspiracy.
How does he react?
Ruthlessly. He moves against them immediately. He arrests Gracchus, silencing that voice of opposition, and with Lucilla, he's particularly cruel. He threatens her son, young Lucius, uses the boy as leverage to ensure her silence, maybe even her cooperation. It's psychological torture.
That really shows his desperation, doesn't it? Resorting to threatening a child.
It absolutely does. It connects back to that idea of fear in leadership leads to oppression. He can't rule through respect, so he rules through terror. It confirms his complete corruption. There's no line he won't cross.
So the plan is discovered. What happens to Maximus's escape attempt?
The tension just ramps up here. Maximus makes his move, tries to get out of the Gladiator barracks, rendezvous with Proximo's men who were supposed to help him get to his legions.
Does he make it?
No. It's a nail-biting sequence, but ultimately he's betrayed or intercepted. Commodus's Praetorian Guard captures him. It feels like the endgame.
Yeah.
Maximus is caught. His allies are neutralized. The rebellion seems crushed before it even started. He seems completely cornered.
It looks hopeless.
It really does. All the threads seem to be tightening around Maximus, leading to one final, inevitable showdown. But Commodus still has that problem. How to kill Maximus without upsetting the crowd.
He needs to do it publicly, but make it look legitimate.
Exactly. So he arranges the ultimate spectacle, a duel in the Colosseum, Emperor versus Gladiator. He thinks this will finally win him the adoration he craves, defeating the people's hero fair and square.
Except it's Commodus. It's not going to be fair and square, is it?
Not a chance. In perhaps his most cowardly, despicable act, just before they go out into the arena, Commodus visits Maximus in the holding area. He embraces him, seemingly a gesture of respect or something, but as he does, he stabs Maximus, a deep wound in his side.
And hides it under the armor.
Yes, hidden from the crowd. A mortal wound designed to weaken Maximus to ensure Commodus wins. It's the ultimate act of treachery, a complete opposite of honor. It perfectly sets up this final battle where the hero is fighting not just the emperor, but fighting against his own dying body. It's just profoundly dishonorable.
So the final duel. Maximus, mortally wounded, versus Commodus, the emperor, in the Colosseum.
The culmination of everything, and despite the wound, despite the blood loss, Maximus fights with this incredible, almost superhuman will. It's not a clean fight, it's ugly, brutal, desperate.
How does he possibly win? He's dying.
It's pure will, I think. Fueled by the memory of his family, the need for justice, maybe that sense of fulfilling Marcus Aurelius' wish. He manages to disarm Commodus, and ultimately, after Commodus pulls a hidden knife and Maximus drives it into him, he kills the emperor. Vengeance is finally achieved.
But it's more than just vengeance at this point, isn't it?
Oh, much more. The symbolism is huge. It's honor finally conquering corruption, justice overcoming tyranny. And the way the fight is filmed, raw, painful, not glorified, emphasizes the cost, the sheer effort it takes.
He's fulfilled his personal quest. But then, as he's dying,
surrounded by the stunned crowd, the Praetorians, Lucilla. He uses his last breaths for Rome. He issues commands.
What does he order?
He orders Senator Gracchus to be reinstated. He orders his gladiator brothers to be freed, a final act of solidarity. And crucially, his very last instruction echoes Marcus Aurelius. He tells them to restore the Republic, give Rome back to the people.
Wow. So he transcends his own pain, his own revenge to fulfill that larger purpose.
Exactly. That's his ultimate redemption. His legacy isn't just as the gladiator who killed an emperor, it's as the man who, at the very end, tried to steer Rome back towards its ideals. He completes Marcus Aurelius' vision. It's incredibly powerful.
A true hero's end, even in death.
Absolutely. He dies and he's honored. Not by the emperor's decree, but by the people there. The gladiators lift his body. Lucilla acknowledges his sacrifice. It's a solemn, dignified farewell. And the film gives him that final piece, that beautiful imagery of him walking through the Elysian fields, reunited with his wife and son.
That final shot is so poignant.
It is. Bittersweet, definitely. Justice prevails, but the hero finds his peace only in death. But his actions, his legacy, they live on. And that brings us back to those core themes that make the film resonate so much.
Let's quickly recap those. First, obviously, honor versus corruption. Maximus as the unwavering embodiment of honor against Commodus's treachery.
Then revenge and redemption. His personal quest transforms into something bigger, achieving redemption not just for himself, but potentially for Rome.
The struggle between dictatorship and democracy. That fundamental conflict for Rome's soul, running from Marcus Aurelius right through to Maximus's final words.
And finally, legacy and the pursuit of justice. What does it mean to leave a legacy? What is the cost of justice? The film argues it's profoundly important, even if the price is immense.
And all of this is wrapped in this incredible package. The acting, especially Crow, the direction, the score, the sheer visual spectacle. It's no wonder it swept the Oscars and remains so beloved.
It hits on all cylinders: action, drama, emotion, ideas. It's a complete cinematic experience.
So we've journeyed through the rise, the devastating fall, and the ultimate tragic triumph of Maximus Decimus Meridius. An incredible story.
It really is, and it leaves you thinking.
Definitely. Which brings us to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Maximus achieves justice, finds his peace, but through extreme violence and unimaginable sacrifice. The film seems to suggest that sometimes, maybe true honor and justice, demand that kind of heavy price, that kind of conflict.
So the question becomes, is that always the case? Or, in our own lives, in our world, can we pursue justice? Can we build a legacy, fight for what's right, without resorting to such extremes? Can we find other paths, maybe quieter, maybe more collaborative?
Something to think about. Does fighting for honor always have to mean fighting, literally?
Right.
Or are there other ways?
A good question to leave hanging.
Indeed. Well, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the epic that is Gladiator.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.